In June 2026, the United States will host the World Cup. And the team that was never supposed to be allowed in is packing their bags. Iran versus the United States. No embassies, no diplomats, no phone calls at the top for 45 years. And in less than 30 days, they will share the same grass, the same tournament, the same 90 minutes. But here is what almost nobody is paying attention to. The host country almost stopped this from happening. And the story is not over yet. This is not a story about football. This is about what happens when two enemies, one of them the host nation, are forced into the same stadium. Here is why this situation is different from anything football has ever seen. The United States and Iran don't just disagree. They have a body count. 1979, 52 Americans held hostage for 444 days. The hostage crisis didn't end a relationship. It ended any relationship. No embassies since, no diplomats, no direct talks, sanctions layered on top of sanctions, and 45 years of silence that sounds louder than words. That silence is not empty. It is filled with everything left unsaid, every negotiation that never happened, every misunderstanding that hardened into certainty. So when FIFA awarded the 2026 World Cup to the United States, Canada, and Mexico, everyone celebrated. Biggest tournament ever. 48 teams, 16 cities, historic, but somewhere in a room we will never see. Well, someone asked a question that changed everything. What if Iran qualifies? They did. Team Melli, Iran's national side, has become one of Asia's most consistent footballing nations. 2018, 2022, and now 2026. They earned their place fair and square on the pitch. But off the pitch has been a completely different story, and that story is still being written as we speak. Here is something most football fans never think about. To enter the United States, you need a visa, a United States government visa, and the United States government can say no. That is not a loophole. That is a legal sovereign right. And in the context of Iran, a country under United States sanctions, with no diplomatic channel and a government Washington has called a state sponsor of terrorism for decades, that visa question was never routine. It became a loaded gun on the table, and for months nobody knew which way it would fire. Imagine you are an Iranian footballer right now, in May of 2026. You have trained your entire life for this moment. You have qualified for the World Cup. But until just recently, you did not actually know if you would be allowed to enter the host country. Your ability to compete in the biggest tournament of your life depended on the same government your own government has been feuding with for nearly half a century. That is not pressure. That is something else entirely. Now here's where it gets intense, and this is still happening in real time. The Iranian government has had its own nightmare to manage. Sending the national team to America was never just a football decision. At home, it is a political statement. Being seen as cooperative with the United States, even for a World Cup, carries real risk in Tehran. Hardliners are watching. State media is watching. And the government had to decide, do we send our players to the soil of the country we have called the Great Satan for 45 years? That decision was not made quickly. There were moments where the entire trip was one phone call away from being canceled. Meanwhile, on the American side, multiple government departments have been pulled into conversations they never expected to have. State Department, Homeland Security, the White House at some level. Because issuing visas to Iranian officials is not just paperwork, it is a political act. And in Washington, political acts have consequences. Some voices argued for denial. Why make it easy for a hostile government to send its athletes to American soil? Others argued that blocking the team would be a public relations disaster, that it would turn the World Cup into a diplomatic weapon. This could have stopped everything. One decision, one refusal, one government choosing confrontation over sport, and the whole thing would have fallen apart before a single ball was kicked. FIFA knew it, and FIFA has been terrified. The organization has spent years and billions of dollars building the 2026 World Cup into the most watched sporting event in human history. A diplomatic crisis involving the host nation and a qualified team? That is not a problem. That is a catastrophe. You cannot sell advertising around a political firestorm. You cannot market unity when two countries are refusing to speak. So FIFA pushed. Not publicly. Publicly, FIFA has been all smiles and unity. But privately, the pressure on Washington was real. The message was clear. Figure it out before this becomes a story bigger than the tournament itself. Washington did something that surprised a lot of people. They said yes, visas have been issued. Iranian players, coaches, support staff, and officials will be permitted to enter the United States for the duration of the tournament. Quietly, without fanfare, just yes. Now why? Was it genuine belief that sport should transcend politics? Was it pressure from FIFA and billions in economic activity? Nobody has given a clean answer. Nobody ever does in situations like this. But the decision has been made, so here is where we stand right now, in May of 2026. Iran will arrive, no boycott, no last-minute withdrawal. The players will land on American soil. They will train, they will prepare. And when match day comes in June, Team Melli will walk out of that tunnel onto an American pitch under American lights. And the crowd inside that stadium will be unlike anything a normal World Cup has ever produced. Thousands of Iranian Americans, some who left Iran decades ago, some who were born here to parents who fled, some who still have family back home, some who support the team fiercely, and some who will feel something far more conflicted. In the stands, you will likely see both Iranian flags, the official one, and the pre-revolution flag, the lion and sun, the one the regime banned, side by side, sometimes held by people standing just feet apart. This will not be a crowd divided by team loyalty. This will be a crowd carrying an entire nation's unresolved pain inside a football stadium on American soil at the World Cup. There is no sport in the world that does that. The players will feel it too. These are not government officials. Most of them play their club football in Europe. They are professionals, athletes, men who have spent their entire lives chasing a ball. But they know. Every single one of them knows what it means to be here, in this country, wearing that shirt. At this tournament, one player, asked recently about the political situation, paused for a long moment, then said simply, "We are footballers. We just want to play." 7 words. And somehow, those 7 words say more than any press conference ever could. When June arrives, Iran will play. They will compete. They will give everything they have on that pitch. And whether they win or lose, in those moments, something quietly extraordinary will be happening. 2 governments who refuse to speak to each other, whose athletes will be sharing a field, whose flags will be hanging in the same stadium, whose people, divided by oceans and politics and 45 years of silence, will be watching the same match in the same country at the same time. Sport will not fix that. Do not misunderstand. The sanctions will not disappear. The hostility will not soften. The history will not rewrite itself because of a football tournament. But for 90 minutes, something strange and rare will happen. 2 enemies will occupy the same space without it ending in disaster. And in the world we are living in right now, that is not nothing. That is actually quite close to everything. So, what do you make of all this? Is it proof that sport is bigger than politics? Or is it proof that money and football are powerful enough to temporarily paper over almost anything? Here's the question I keep coming back to. Those Iranian players standing in that tunnel, waiting to walk out, hearing the crowd, feeling the weight of what this moment is, will they feel like footballers? Or will they feel like something is being carried through them, something much older, much heavier, much bigger than any game? Because everyone watching, whether they say it out loud or not, will feel it too. The flags in the stands, the silence in certain moments, the noise in others, the complicated faces in the crowd. This will never be just a football match. It is about 2 nations with blood in their history and silence between their governments, forced by the world's biggest sport to share the same ground. And maybe that is the most honest thing football has ever done. Not pretend the politics do not exist, but show up anyway, because the game goes on. It always does, even when it probably should not. In June, we will find out what happens next. Drop your precious thoughts in comment, and what is your prediction for FIFA? 2026. Win a team, be happy.